Did you know that Jesus was not crucified on a Friday?
With all due respect, this is just incorrect. All four Gospels confirm Jesus died on Friday, which was called the Day of Preparation because the Jews were preparing for the Sabbath. Craig Blomberg points out the Gospel of John even agrees with this and says Jesus died Friday evening, just before the Sabbath began. I've covered this all more extensively in these two videos.
And if we strictly look at the details stated within the text, Jesus had to be crucified on a Wednesday, and there's only 1 year that meets all the requirements.
The idea Jesus was crucified on a Wednesday was thoroughly addressed in an old book by Harold Hoehner. All the biblical evidence points to a Friday crucifixion.
Jesus states in Matthew 12:40, "For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Now, people attempting to justify a Friday crucifixion look at how the Jews look at a day. So if only part of a day passed, they would consider that a whole day. However, Jesus doesn't just say 3 days. He says 3 days and 3 nights. And that detail is very important. And the problem with a Friday crucifixion is that there's no way to get 3 days and 3 nights out of it.
So the Jews taught a portion of a day and a night could be considered as the whole, not just the day. Rabbi Eliezer ben Azara said, "A day and a night are an ona, a portion of time, and the portion of an ona is as the whole of it." We see this in the book of Esther. She said she would fast for 3 days and 3 nights, but then we read she went to see the king on the 3rd day. We see similar language in 1 Samuel 30, other biblical passages, and even Josephus' Antiquities. Even in Matthew, we see the chief priest quoting Jesus saying he would rise after 3 days. But then they only request the tomb be made secure until the 3rd day, not the 4th day. As both R.T. France and Harold Hoehner note, the 3 days and 3 nights in Matthew is just an idiomatic expression. It does not refer to a literal 72-hour period. And of course, we have many other biblical passages where it says Jesus would rise on the 3rd day. If Jesus died on Friday, the 3rd day is Sunday, corresponding with church tradition.
Now, according to Exodus 12, verse 1 through 6, the Passover lamb was inspected and selected on the 10th of Nisan and killed on the 14th of Nisan at twilight. Now, the Jewish year includes 7 additional Sabbaths known as high Sabbaths in addition to the Saturday Sabbaths. Passover is Nisan 14. The next day, 15 Nisan, is a high Sabbath. We see this in Leviticus 23, 4 through 7, and Numbers 28.
Neither of these passages refer to festival days as high Sabbaths. In fact, Harold Hoehner says there's no evidence the Jews ever called festival days Sabbaths.
And it was common to refer to the 14th day as the day of preparation, even though the Old Testament calls it the Lord's Passover. It was a day of preparation for the next day, which was a high Sabbath.
Again, there's no evidence Passover was called a high Sabbath, and the day of preparation was Friday, as they were preparing for the Sabbath. That means Jesus died on Friday.
Now, John 19:31 states, "Therefore, because it was the preparation day that the body should not remain on the cross on the Sabbath, for that Sabbath was a high day, the Jews asked Pilate that their legs might be broken and that they might be taken away." The next high day to come is the 15th of Nisan. Thus, Jesus had to be crucified on the 14th of Nisan.
No, this verse confirms Jesus died on Friday, because it says it was the day of preparation for the Sabbath that was occurring on Saturday. And again, we have no evidence that festival days were called high Sabbaths. The reason John calls that Sabbath a high day is because it was occurring during Passover week. John 7:37 shows us that festival days were called high days. This Saturday Sabbath was occurring during Passover week, so it was also a high day.
Now, Matthew 28 says, "Now after the Sabbath, as the first day of the week began to dawn," and that would be Sunday, "Mary Magdalene and the other Mary came to see the tomb." The problem is that in the Greek, the word here, Sabbathon, is translated Sabbath, but it's a plural. So it should say after the Sabbaths. So multiple Sabbaths occur between the crucifixion and Sunday, so it cannot be a Friday, because if the high Sabbath was Saturday, it would only be considered a single Sabbath. Thus, there has to be a high Sabbath and a regular Sabbath between the crucifixion and the first day of the week.
Harold Hoehner addresses this when he says, the term Sabbath is frequently 1/3 of all its New Testament occurrences in the plural form in the New Testament when only 1 day is in view. For example, in Matthew 12, 1-12, both the singular and the plural forms are used. There is no real case for a Passover Sabbath, which occurred the day before the regular weekly Sabbath. Now, I don't have time to get into the debate about what year Jesus died. Hoehner already covers this and notes the biblical evidence can only point to 30 AD or 33 AD. But regardless of that, the biblical evidence confirms a Friday crucifixion. There's a reason experts for the past 2,000 years have said we should remember the crucifixion on Good Friday and not Good Wednesday.